we got this chart. Somebody emailed it to us, and I'm sorry I didn't keep the cover note with us, but we'll post it at ArmstrongandGettyRadio.com. And it's from a website that concerns itself with, I think it's kind of a libertarianish website, Common Sense Magazine and Reason Magazine, that sort of thing. But it has this series of ovals. They're not concentric. They kind of get bigger in terms of what government goods and services you think are appropriate. And where does that put you on the political scale, which I thought was interesting. Now, voluntarism, which frequent correspondent Benjamin, I usually call him Ben the Libertarian, he's a voluntarist. The market provides all goods and services based on voluntary exchange. Everything. Police, security, firefighting, courts, roads. It's all voluntary exchange.
Very few people are that far.
Oh, yeah, and it's practically never existed in the history of mankind. And I think, generally speaking, if it's never existed in the history of mankind, outside of some village in the 1200s, Ben, it's just not going to happen. But minarchism, are you a minarchist? You think police, security, like the army, et cetera, should be provided, courts, and, like adjudication and arbitration, dispute settlement. But that's it. You're a minarchist. Are you a paleo-conservative or a classical liberalism? You add to that fire protection and transportation like roads and buses and subways, infrastructure. You're fine with that. You're probably a paleo-conservative or a classic liberal. Like, I don't know, classic liberal. Who knows what that is? I don't remember. I was out that day or stoned or something. Modern conservatism. You're okay with adding on unemployment insurance, retirement insurance, like, I guess, Social Security, limited health care for seniors and the very poor, and education, public education. It's kind of a range there because, for the very poor, I just like, a moral supportive charity.
Why you poor? I'm always if you're not physically or mentally capable, then yeah, I'm gonna help you out. Otherwise, you just made bad decisions. F you. That's my current stance.
Some would find that harsh, and by some, I mean all.
I'm not concerned about the very poor.
Thank you, Mitt. So we're on past modern conservatism. We come to the line between modern liberalism, total socialism, etc. Where does this particular thinker think that line falls? We'll tell you in a moment.
You are listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
So we've gone through voluntarism, minarchism, classical liberalism, which is really the same as paleo-conservatism. That's the interesting part to me.
So you're going on a scale from most conservative to most liberal?
No, absolutely not. And I'm glad you brought that up. I'd say it's least government to most government.
Okay. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, because by modern standards, you're right. Really, you're right. You could use that, but I don't know. There are a lot of so-called conservatives who want a hell of a lot of government involvement in various aspects of people's lives.
Rick Santorum's one of them. He's a guy who likes the government to fix a lot, get involved in a lot of the social ills. Big government conservatives. There's lots of them.
Yeah. So at any rate, we've worked our way through that. If you missed the first part, go to the podcast and continue stealing from us. So now this is interesting here. We've gone to modern conservatism, which is fine with the government providing unemployment insurance and retirement insurance, for instance, limited health care for the seniors and poor, public education, et cetera, et cetera. And then modern liberalism, this particular chart, which Vince reminded me, we got to post this, adds universal health care to that equation. That ought to be part of it. If you believe in that, you're a modern liberal. Then it goes to total socialism. The government provides, I'm going to save the best for last, energy, clothing, housing, and food to the people. Well, we're already there with the food. They're feeding kids 3 meals a day. Even kids who've shown no sign that they need any help with that. They haven't filled out and they haven't proved they need it. Just anybody who shows up and wants it, the government will feed you, which is incredibly, ironically, unhealthy. So I think we're where you draw the line is up to you. I suppose there's been government Section 8 housing for a long time, so some would say, well, that's not really socialism. And obviously these labels, you can move them, you can put them anywhere you want. This is not like some great sage came down from Mount Sinai with the 10 stages of socialism or anything like that. It's an opinion thing. But I think it's interesting, though, that we're fully on to what is a pretty good definition of total socialism. The government distributes food, housing, clothing, and energy to people. Now, getting back to my original premise, which was like 20 minutes ago now, that I'm incredibly conflicted about, how people vote and the things they vote on, and people, their prejudices and their ignorance prevents them from being good voters. But in what context? The context that you've got to be an expert in energy, clothing, housing, food, universal health care, unemployment insurance, limited health care, education, fire protection, transportation, police, security, roads, the military, and what have I left out? Weather forecasting. You've got to be a knowledgeable voter, an expert in all that stuff. And that's completely unworkable.
Well, sure. Absolutely.
Why? How could I expect that of you? How could anybody expect that of you? And I'm talking to everybody gathered here today, our dearly beloved. That's ridiculous. You got to earn a living. Maybe you got a hobby or two. You try to pay attention to your spouse and your kids and enjoy a sunset now and again. Why would that be asked of you? Well, that's the problem with giant government. The two things are completely incompatible. A voting public, and B, a government that concerns itself in every aspect of life. That may be the single smartest thing I've ever thought of in my life. I am now retiring. That is why I brought this up. Goodbye, everybody. Good luck with the show. Good night. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
That is the fatal
as the government
in modern liberalism.
As the government gets involved in more things, it's more difficult to be a knowledgeable voter because you'd have to know so much more to be a knowledgeable voter.
Yeah, at that point, if everybody was that knowledgeable, you wouldn't need a government. We'd be back to voluntarism. And what bothers me about this is, the obvious conclusion is if we can't be that knowledgeable voter, and we do allow the government to be involved in every single aspect of every single thing that happens on Earth, who is controlling it? Obviously not us, because we have no idea what we're talking about. And, it's my considered opinion, certainly some folks would disagree with me, that there's no more slow-moving, inefficient, and corrupt assemblage of people to run something than the government. So it's a horrifying idea. Did somebody write that down? Because I'll forget I said that like in 10 minutes.
It's on tape.
Okay.